Norland is a big step for colony sims. All that chaos, unpredictability, and whimsy is present, but it's all tied into something bigger. A simulated kingdom with rulers vying for power and upsetting the balance. It's RimWorld meets Crusader Kings. Now, when I first heard that comparison, I thought it a match made in heaven, and after getting stuck into the game for a few dozen hours courtesy of Hooded Horse, I can comfortably say this game does exactly what it says on the tin, and it is so much fun. It doesn't go into as much depth as either parent, but it ties the two premises together into something that is deeply entertaining. This isn't just another colony sim with a fancy coat of paint. It brings so much with it. Raising armies and going to war, schmoozing local kings and forging alliances, dealing with rebellions and religious uprising, tons and tons of murder. Most importantly, it has something that I think is crucial to this sort of game. It is batshit. There's a good amount that you have control over, but ultimately you are sitting there hoping your lords follow through with their duties. They might just turn around and say, sod it, and go copulate with the local miller. I had so much fun with this, and if you're a fan of RimWorld, Crusader Kings, or colony sims in general, I think you will too. You're in the right place for checking out the game. So let's have a dig into Norland and see what it has to offer. It takes a lot to make a village run. Dozens of serfs, days and days of backbreaking labor, a lifetime of sacrifice and toil. Thankfully, you won't be doing any of that. You only have a few characters to worry about, your lords. They'll issue orders to the common folk and keep things ticking. This creates a nice balance. You feel like you're managing a hustling, bustling town, but you're not having to worry about what dozens of different peasants are doing at any given time. But that's not to say it can't go wrong. If your lords aren't happy, they will shirk their duties. They won't give their orders to the workers, and everything will grind to a halt. Each character has different needs, the obvious stuff like food, rest, alcohol, but also some more abstract desires. They want social interaction, they like to pray and find inner peace. Sometimes they just need a simple release. You can give each of your lords a chore list, but there is a degree of autonomy. They'll mostly take care of themselves, and there isn't a huge amount of micromanagement, which I know will be a big plus for some of you. Each character has different skills. Some are best suited to diplomatic missions, others get the best deals when trading. Some are simply well versed in the art of murder. The more a lord does a task, the better they get at it. So they're always growing, becoming more competent, but as they recognize their own worth, their demands get bigger. It's up to the king, your most important character, to maintain the balance and reward those who deserve it. Keep your lords happy and their loyalty will go up. They'll follow out orders and keep the population in check. Too much discontent and they'll shirk their duties, and the serfs might turn to a life of crime. This too can quickly derail a town. So, either make sure everyone is happy, or detach a few heads to keep everyone in check. Your choice. One particularly impressive part of the game is the economy. It's broken down into two parts. The micro, your town and its inhabitants, and the macro, the world at large. Let's start small. Your villagers expect a wage after each day's work. You decide how much it is. They want to spend that money on food and alcohol. You also decide the price of those. Any savings they have, they might spend on better food or tastier beer, or just throw it away in a tavern on a gambling spree. You're paying gold from your treasury each day, but with smart management, you're making it back. If you're producing the food and booze yourself, that money comes right back to you. It's a closed economy that you can tinker with and keep the money in constant circulation. But then there's the bigger side of it, the world at large. You can trade with neighbors if they like you enough, and this means gold is flowing between provinces. Then there's the church, the world's mediator. They'll come in the evenings and trade all sorts of goods, be those luxury items, weapons, books to unlock new skills and buildings, or prisoners. Now, I'm sure a lot of you will go into this and not want to use forced labor, but if you've come here from RimWorld, I'm just going to assume you're okay with it. What's going on in the world affects the price of things. If you offload a few tons of wood, there's less demand, the price drops. If there's a war affecting a big supplier of iron, the price will rocket. There's a way to play the market by bringing trader goods into your closed town economy and charging more for them, or trading with a neighbor and selling the goods for a profit. You can write books in the library and export them, or take prisoners of war and sell them off. There is a bunch of ways to approach the game's economy. It was simple enough at first glance to not feel overwhelming, but the more you look at it, the more you see there are layers there that really drive the game forward. And at the end of the day, gold is what drives Norland. And the more of it you have, the more you can influence the world stage. A bigger army, a stronger economy, a greater technological advantage, all will set you up to become a powerful force in the game world. This is where the Crusader King side of things comes into play. Every province has a town, a ruling family, and a culture which is predisposed to like or dislike other people. Ultimately, you want to control the world, whether that's by force or through diplomacy. Creating an alliance of city-states that stands together is an option. Each of your lords can be sent on diplomatic missions to strengthen ties and increase the likelihood of trade deals and other gubbins. You can organize marriages between families, and here and there other rulers will visit your kingdom. Provide for them and show them a good time, and they'll be more inclined to lend you assistance. That's the peaceful route, and I know that's not for everybody. Don't worry, there is loads of sordid cloak and dagger stuff you can do too. Heist treasuries, kidnap and ransom children, strong-arm rulers into becoming your puppet. You can send your armies to ransack their villages and enslave their populace. Whether you're the one committing these atrocities, which will be the case if you're a RimWorld player, or if you're on the receiving end of it, one thing about Norland is clear. Conflict is unavoidable. At some point you are going to butt heads with a neighbor, and that can only be settled on the battlefield. War is a big part of the game, and if you aren't actively building up and strengthening your army, it's a very easy way to fall behind. Granted, there is a peaceful mode if you don't want any of that, but I like a good battle here and there, and Norland does not disappoint. One of the game's big balancing acts is making sure your army is sufficient. You've got plenty of peasants, but truth be told, they won't be much use in a fight. But you've got options. You can have soldiers rise up from the workforce, train them, equip them, and send them off to battle. Or you can raid bandit camps, capture vagabonds, and offer them a spot in your army. You can attack other towns, take prisoners, and turn them into soldiers, or simply buy them from the church. Freedom with a slight chance of dying in battle isn't the worst offer they'll get. Alternatively, you can hire mercenaries to bolster your ranks, or if you've a particularly religious following in your town, a few serfs here and there will be all too happy to join the ranks of the army to wail on some heathens. But having numbers is just the first step. They need a training routine, weapons, armor, perks. Soldiers need to feel like their life in the barracks is better than their life on the farm. They have needs and morale. They can suffer injuries which, if untreated, can and will kill them. But most importantly, they need a leader, one of your lords. A good commander is the difference between a crushing victory and everyone running away like cowardly schoolchildren. So there's a lot to keep in mind once you start on the path of the sword. But there's some big payoffs. Obviously the land, riches, glory, that's all great. Most importantly, you're creating the start of an empire, which will give you a fighting chance in this world. Before I wrap everything up and give my verdict on the game, there's one other big pillar in Norland, and something that really ties everything together: religion. The church is the mediator in all the chaos. They'll intervene when things get out of hand and send a bishop to your town to keep an eye on you. They control the caravans, the world's luxuries, the whole lot. Your citizens want something bigger to believe in, and if the bishop can provide hope, they'll pitch their lot with them. If you're not in his good graces, he may just band his loyal followers together and overthrow you. So it's important to keep a healthy relationship with the church going. Or alternatively, just kill the bishop, which was my tactic. I'm still waiting for that to blow up in my face. Now, you don't have to bootlick the church if you don't want to. You can build a temple and preach defiance, distancing yourself from the Holy Mother. If you're confident you can fend off the Inquisition, you can start throwing your weight around and attacking your neighbors. Get enough provinces under your control and you can shrug off all those sanctions. In a world of balancing acts, the church is at the center. For every action, there's an opposite reaction. It's an interesting dynamic that keeps you thinking not just about the immediate repercussions of your actions, but thinking, if I attack my neighbor, will I get sanctioned? Having a world power you can't directly interact with keeps things ticking, and I like it a lot. With religion in the mix, there is a lot to keep track of, and chances are you will probably misstep and doom your whole town. At this point, you pick yourself up, dust off, and try again. It is fun to fail, and Norland had me jumping back in, eager to try again. To put it plainly, this is just a well thought out game. It takes very different inspirations and mashes them together. Now usually with that sort of combo you get areas where the two sides just don't mesh, but developer Long John have really looked to build something interesting in such places, making a game that feels familiar, but also unique and exciting and, most importantly, fun. Now it doesn't have the depth of either side. RimWorld is unparalleled, and frankly no game is going to come along and provide more than it. But this doesn't have to. The scope is more limited, but also different. You won't play this game in the same way. It's not an evolutionary step that will invalidate anything, rather provide something the genre doesn't have. I can see myself playing this a lot. There's many things that you just don't see in a typical colony sim, and there's something much simpler that I like. It feels well put together. I love the graphics, and the sound design means your town feels alive, and there's always something going on. It's got charm seeping out of every orifice. Sorry for that image. And as I said right at the start, it's also just insane. You can just sit and watch people and have a big dumb smile on your face as everything goes horribly wrong. There are areas I would like to see improvement. Combat could definitely use a bit more nuance, and battles always take place on a field somewhere. I'd love to lay siege to other nations' capitals or fend off attacks on my own. The UI was super clean, and it had my favourite thing in the whole world, nested tooltips, but there was some peculiar scaling going on here and there with text not fitting into boxes. Granted, I play on a weird resolution, but those little issues here and there did bug me. But then again, it's early access. Yes, I know many of you hate to hear those words, but it means those issues will all be cleared up, as well as more content added down the line. As it stands though, this is a great package and a really engaging foundation. There's plenty to get stuck into straight off the bat, and I will absolutely keep on playing it. When they add more stuff later, that'll be great, but as of now, I don't think you'll be feeling too much of an early access sting with this. It's in great shape. It knows what it is, and it is engaging and fun and interesting. Hold off for a while until it gets that extra polish and content if you want, but if you jump in right now, there's plenty to keep you going. So yeah, I will not beat around the bush. I really liked this. It's the first colony sim I've played in years that really had me excited to discover and experiment, rather than feeling like I already know the drill and know what to do. But let's hear from you guys. Have you had your eye on the game, and are you thinking of picking it up? I've mentioned what I'd like to see added in the future, but what would be your perfect features in a medieval colony sim? Get all those thoughts, opinions, or questions written down below. And if you've enjoyed your time here and want to see more like this in the future, go and give that subscribe button a clicking. I'm here making strategy and simulation content every Saturday, and I will have plenty more first impressions in the future. I'm also on a mission to play and rank every city builder game ever made. It's really fun. Go check it out. Shameless plug out of the way. One final time, this is Norland, a medieval colony sim that marries the absurdity of RimWorld with the intrigue and political strife of Crusader Kings. A really, really fun game that brings something new to the genre, and I would wholeheartedly recommend checking it out. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.